You are listening to the Break Time Tech Talks podcast, a bite-sized tech podcast for busy developers, where we'll briefly cover technical topics, news snippets, and more in short time blocks. I'm your host, Jennifer Reif, an avid developer and problem solver with special interest in data, learning, and all things technology. Sometimes you win some, and sometimes you lose some. I had several successful ventures and some not so successful ventures this week. I had a virtual presentation, a live stream, and answered some questions for a virtual workshop. Plus, I got a few other small things knocked out this week along the way. I'll dive into what worked and what didn't in today's episode and bring you along for the somewhat bumpy ride. To start us off, early in the week, I had a virtual meetup for the San Francisco ACM. This was tons of fun, had lots of really good questions. Because it was Pacific time, it was a little bit later in the evening for me. That actually worked out really, really well. The house was quiet. I was up and ready to go. I have a GitHub repository that I will link in the show notes, and the session covered the Python with Neo4j GraphRag Python package, and we dealt with building a knowledge graph through that package. So there's some knowledge graph construction pieces in the Neo4j GraphRag Python package. And then there's also some retrieval pieces. And then, of course, you can integrate with agents as well. I covered a little bit of all of these different topics in the session that evening. And I actually ended up refactoring a few things that day to improve some of the results and smooth some things out. I was going through everything, and I'd reviewed everything at the end of last week and just really felt that it wasn't as high quality as what I really wanted it to be. And it just didn't flow as smoothly as what I wanted. So I went back and fixed a few things, adjusted the model, re-imported some things, and the changes ended up working much, much better. I thought it presented a much better result on the other side, so I was really happy with it. There are still some further refinements I would like to make, so hopefully I will get another round to work on it and make even more improvements on this. But I loved having the event there. I had some colleagues in the room, which was really helpful to kind of coordinate some things and just interact with people in the region. And then I came in and did the virtual presentation, which was a ton of fun. Again, lots of good questions throughout that kind of broke things up a little bit. There were a range of beginner to intermediate to advanced questions, which was really nice, and everyone took along for the ride. So this was a ton of fun. It was definitely something I would love to do. I'll link everything in the show notes for the GitHub repository. Feel free to check that out. This week, I also participated as a TA, so answering questions and helping out in the chat for a Road to Nodes AI session, which is one of our workshops. Every year, we have a Nodes virtual conference that happens in the fall. This year, we have opened up a spring version of it that is focused all around AI. And it's called Nodes AI. That is coming April 15th. Again, just like our regular Nodes event in the fall, Nodes AI is free and virtual, and it's not quite as long as our traditional Nodes event. That event runs 24 hours. The Nodes AI rendition runs, I think, about 7 to 8 hours-ish. But again, still free, still virtual. Lots of great content around AI. And to lead up to that event, we always have virtual workshops. So same thing is going to happen with our Nodes AI event as well. We have a Road to Nodes AI, which is several virtual workshops that occur in the weeks coming up to that. We just had one this week, and I helped out in the chat answering some questions. This was a really great session. It was all about MCP and integrating Neo4j with MCP servers, walked through all of the servers that we have available, and then presented 2 different demos showcasing some workflows and how everything operates together and what it was doing. This was a really interesting session, and it was really well done by the presenters. There were 2 of them, both internal to Neo4j, both very skilled, and you could tell just really enjoying themselves there. There were lots of great questions and very interested attendees, so this was a lot of fun for me to sit back and listen to, as well as just to pop into the chat and answer some things along the way. There is one more workshop coming next week, and this one is going to be on long-term memory and agentic workflows. So if you're interested in registering for that, again, free, entirely virtual, don't wait to register. I will leave the registration link in the show notes for that. And then, of course, if you're interested in attending the Nodes AI event, which is coming up in about 3 weeks now, that is entirely free and virtual. I will leave a sign-up link for that too. Then I had a live stream, actually just following the workshop session, that didn't really go according to plan. We were refactoring Postgres to Neo4j, and we probably just attempted too much all at once. We swapped out some dependencies. That worked fine. We tried using OGM, which is the Neo4j object graph mapper, but I think that actually got us in a little bit more trouble because there were several things that could have been a bit more direct if we'd just gone with the driver, where OGM abstracted a few things a bit more. This was a really humbling experience that showed me some gaps in my understanding and gaps that I am currently trying to fill. So the live stream wasn't super successful, but I'm working through fixing what we missed. And I am really excited to learn and dig in on some of the things that I just felt like I wasn't sure about or wasn't sure how to get the problem solved and where to look for it. I have also noticed there's some gaps in some of the documentation, which I've mentioned before, where there's not too many examples out there of saving graph data to a Neo4j database, and also combining all these different things where you're trying to save data to a graph database, and you're also trying to create embeddings, and you're trying to do retrieval all in the same application. I'm hoping to fill those gaps here shortly, but this was just something that was surfaced even more through this experience. I hopefully will have better updates on this soon and, of course, share what I've learned and how I've filled in those gaps. I did also get a chance to work on the AI Java book this week, and it is going really well. I had a really good working session earlier in the week. I hope to continue that over the next several days and weeks as well and have some more updates for that. There was a piece of content that I got to this week, which I was super excited about. I caught a few other things as well, but I'm in the process of working through those. But the one that I will share this week, I was actually shared to me by a colleague, the person that I did the joint presentation with at DevNexus, Aaron. She sent over this blog post called Long-Running LLM Conversations Need Working Memory, Not Just More Context by James Dunham. This actually hit the nail right on the head of the problems we were running into with the joint session that we did with the project. This is the exact problem we saw a few months ago, where we were working on a role-playing game and trying to use an LLM as the kind of game master and decider and keeper of context and rules and all sorts of other things. And the author of this article says they were seeing the same problem where the large language model was losing the story, contradicting some of the facts, and confusing the character details and names. Again, all of these things we were seeing in our application as well, where RAG and memory would help, but that still happened over time. So it deteriorated as the conversation in the game continued. We again saw this as well. It would do really well up front, and then it would just deteriorate as the game went on. This does make sense. And the author's approach is very interesting to solving this problem. The author used Mbabel as the Java AI agentic framework and incorporated the DICE piece, that is their knowledge graph implementation, for working with memory and knowledge graphs inside Mbabel. And there's a couple other things that the author mentions he used as well. And this is something, the issues that the author was seeing and that we saw as well is something that humans do automatically, where we extract key bits of facts and data and to keep that story thread going. So we automatically prioritize things that are most important. For instance, if somebody gets up and gives you a 45-minute, 50-minute presentation, you will automatically pick out key things that you feel are the key bullet points, the high points, the highlights of that. And most people probably come up with the same highlights. There might be a few nuances, right? But being able to keep that thread and that storyline is something that humans do already without even consciously thinking about it. And this is something that large language models have not mastered, at least not yet. Large language models can do some of these pieces, but again, it erodes over time and it can be manipulated because, again, large language models are designed to be helpful and accommodating in a lot of cases. That means that sometimes they default to the human. And if the human tries to basically hack their perceptions and hack the facts that they realize at that time or that they see as facts at that time, then the human can come in and manipulate those, or some other system could potentially come in and manipulate those, and the large language model will fold and cave to those at certain points. And this is specifically what the author was pointing out, is that will erode over time, and the way sometimes that the conversation flows could erode those facts over time or change concepts of the story. And so the challenge then is figuring out which pieces of the story should not erode over time or should be maybe slowly deteriorated and changed over time, but shouldn't have drastic changes all of a sudden. So the author approached this problem with a ranking and evaluation system that did improve the long-running conversation continuity. Again, the author says that it's not flawless yet. It still hasn't been completely solved, but it is doing better. And this ranking system helped to maintain that continuity, put up some additional boundaries, and let the large language model figure out, okay, now I have a brand new fact that contradicts what I know. How do I evaluate that? Is that a valid change to the facts that I know, or is it not? Do I need to refute that or push back on that? I found this really interesting and something that we'll see how it develops over time. But I thought this was something that I would love to apply to some future projects, or at least explore more. This week, I had some successes and some challenges, but I will spend some time working to fill some of the gaps that I found. I still really enjoyed the learning during the live stream, and I enjoyed getting to answer questions and engage with attendees during the Road to Nodes AI workshop. As always, thanks for listening and happy coding.